What's going on, guys? Tommy Nichols, Blue Collar Voice, here with Mr. Vernon Compton. He's running for Milton City Council. Well, you're the incumbent, correct?
Yes.
You're the incumbent for Milton City Council, Ward 1, Seat 1. How are you doing, Mr. Compton?
I'm doing great. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good, buddy. It's good to have you in here. We're going to get these questions asked. Guys, you know how we do it. We don't mess around. We ask part one is the personal questions, get to know you a little bit, and then part two is the meat and potatoes. Find out where you're at on all the wonderful issues over in the city of Milton.
Good deal.
You ready?
Yeah.
All righty, jumping right into it. Part one, personal questions. Who are you?
All right. Well, I'm Vernon Compton. I've lived in Milton for 32 years. I grew up in Louisiana and really can't say much about myself without talking about my family.
Absolutely.
I had 5 brothers and sisters in the family. My dad was in the Army, and he met my mother in Louisiana when he was stationed at a base there. She was working at a downtown department store, and they fell in love, and just a very close-knit family. And we were always tied to the land. We had a little piece of property and some trees and grew things, and my dad was a really good mechanic, had a automobile mechanic shop, was a great carpenter. So just learned a lot from the family dynamics of how to grow things, how to live on the land. That all became just a part of who I am.
Right, absolutely. All right, what do you / did you do for a living, and why did you choose that profession?
Well, part of that, my profession is I'm a forester, forest management.
Okay.
And part of that grew from my family and my upbringing, just love of the outdoors and the land. And it led me to pursuing a forest management degree. And since that time, I spent some time working for private industry. I worked for state agency, and then ended up getting a job at Blackwater River State Forest, and that's what brought me to Milton. And worked there for many years, and then started working for nonprofit conservation organizations that work with natural resources and preserving, restoring, managing land and water.
Awesome, and you're in the perfect place for that job.
Absolutely.
All right, and one thing, I don't know if I've told you this or not, these questions, other than the when we get to the meat and potato ones, these are questions that we pulled from your guys as citizens over there. They send them to us, and that's how we do the questioning. So they all come from your guys as citizens, and so that way, all I am is the mouthpiece, basically, I guess you could say.
Yeah, that's great.
We got to get to know the gentleman before us first off. Number 3, how did that job help prepare you for your job on the city council?
Well, it's interesting because forest management, you're dealing a lot with growing things,
right?
And you have to get them established. There's all kinds of preparation for that. There's of course cost, budget.
Yes.
A lot of times there's also staff and managing staff and resources and equipment breakdowns, you name it.
Right.
So you learn a lot about solving problems to get to a finish line, and I think that helped to prepare me because you have to live within the budget.
Right.
A lot of times you have to raise money or wait till you have the money to do a specific task.
Right.
And you have to live within basically a plan.
Yes.
And that's basically what you do in forest management. Sometimes the returns are way down the road. It could be 20 years, it could be 30, 50 years. So for people that grow trees, either public or private landowners, it's a long-term investment. And a lot of things can happen during that time. So how you manage that land, how do you prepare for that, is very, very important. So I think it just taught me a lot of lessons on how to solve problems, how to be solution focused.
Right.
Because when you're dealing with land and growing trees, and you throw in elements that landowners have, like I'm also interested in wildlife. Right. That's an important aspect of my land.
Absolutely.
Or I'm interested in the aesthetics of it, or I want to return it back to what it used to be. Here, we were dominated by the lonely pine ecosystem. It's a very diverse ecosystem, lots of different plants, animals, and we find many people that's what drives them. They're very interested in that, and they want to bring that back.
Yes, they do.
So that's been a big part. You always have to find out what is the landowner priority, and I think that's important as an elected official, because as an elected official, you answer to the citizens.
That's right.
So what are those priorities of the community that you serve? And it's the same thing when you're working with a piece of land. So it's taught me how to do that.
Absolutely, it goes hand in hand. And you're talking about investments and everything with the trees. Right out here behind us, that big pasture you see used to be nothing but planted pines. Hurricane Ivan came along and
Changed it.
solved that problem right there. All those beautiful planted pines were folded over.
Laid them down.
I get exactly where you're coming from on that one right there. What are your biggest career and life accomplishments?
Well, starting with career, it was following my dream and getting into forestry, because
Absolutely.
I had to work at that to get to that point, and then get my foot in the door in the industry, and then getting to where I was doing what I ultimately wanted to do, which was helping to conserve land and natural resources and wildlife habitat and protecting rivers and creeks.
Absolutely.
And those are things, it's a part of my growing up, but it's a part of not just taking care of today, it's taking care of the future too. And that's been really rewarding to me here.
Yes.
Working in the local area, because I've seen lots of projects initiated, put in the ground, and then seeing them change over time. Seeing hundreds of thousands of trees planted, and those grow and become a forest.
Right.
Seeing the wildlife come in where they needed certain habitat. So all of that's rewarding. Solving problems like big gullies that were putting sediment and smothering rivers and creeks. Well, you got to address that problem. You got to fix it.
Absolutely.
So how do you do that? And turning off the water, getting native plants and trees reestablished, and then seeing that whole area heal.
Yeah.
Something that was really detrimental to the river or creek, and working with either landowners or staff or volunteers, and all of that pulling together and fixing something. So that's been very rewarding. We worked on a lot of projects of preserving land. I know that's important to people here. They don't want to see everything developed.
Right.
So some of the big pieces of land that buffer military bases, but they provide wildlife corridors between Eglin and Blackwater River State Forest, in and around Whitingfield. That's something, it's good for the military.
Yeah.
It helps to protect the military mission. It's good for the environment.
Absolutely.
It's good for hunting, fishing. It's good for recreation.
We all benefit. Right?
We all benefit from it.
A
So
lot of people don't realize that right there. They don't. I don't think a lot of people know what you guys do in that job right there, and that's why I'm so glad you've been able to talk about it and get that out there. Because without you guys, this place would literally be running rampant, going crazy. This growing over here, this growing over there, but it's you guys that keep it all flourishing the way it should be. And thank you, seriously.
no, you're welcome. I mean, it's a lot of people that are doing it, but
Yeah.
just answering and what's rewarding to me, that's very rewarding
Yes.
to see that happen. And that for the kids, grandkids, future generations, with that effort being put in place by everyone, it's going to be there for the future.
Yes,
And
absolutely.
it helps to preserve what matters to a lot of people here. Part of the reason why we love this place is because of the forest and the
Right.
rivers and creeks and the wildlife, and being able to get out there in it,
Yes.
to have access to it, through a variety of means. But all of that I've worked on for decades because I believe in it. So,
Absolutely, and I appreciate that. Seriously. I'm not just saying it just to say it. Seriously. All right. What was your biggest issue that you have faced either in your life or else?
probably, getting started and down that path of, what I was going to do, making
Right.
it, getting the forestry degree, getting started in it. Because of my family, I had a strong foundation because I saw what hard work and determination meant. I wasn't from a rich family. My family didn't have a lot of money, but we were rich because of the family.
Right.
But they taught me what hard work meant.
Absolutely.
That you keep on putting that effort in. I had to raise the funds to go to school. I had to work. I had to pursue scholarships. I wasn't always the best person maybe for that scholarship,
Right.
but a lot of times I ended up getting it because I put the effort into applying for it.
That's right.
I always worked to get what helped me to get to that next place. But I really learned that from my family. I told you about my dad. When I was 5 or 6 years old, my mom basically became the single runner of the family. So she, had to raise the money. She did everything. I remember she was just making $1.65 an hour and raising kids. But that's what I mean about learning about hard work. Is she did all of that. I never heard any complaints. I always had a hot breakfast in the morning, eggs and bacon, biscuits, toast, something like that. When she came home from work, I always had a hot dinner, a meal that was put together on that salary. So we didn't have a lot. Our clothes had to last for the whole school year.
Yep.
But, we learned how to grow things, to dig in the dirt. I learned how to grow vegetables when I was a little tiny boy. I just learned how to do all of that.
Right.
So it was that taught me that you have to put effort into something to get to a good place. And sometimes that effort is just you and your family. Sometimes it's a community effort. With us, sometimes it was with the church. It was community and church and family and all of that really mattered. But it just taught me a lot about when you get beat down, when you make a mistake, you got to get up and try again. You got to learn from the things that don't work and the mistakes that you make. Maybe lessons learned from a friend or another business or someone in the community. But you learn from that, and that just makes you a better, stronger individual. And that really helped me to get, make it through college, get started in my career, and then ultimately, land in Milton, a place that I really want to be. I've really grown to love a lot, and then to try and make a difference in the community that I live in.
Awesome. Yeah. And that family structure that you're talking about right there, that is such an important thing right there, because everybody that I've spoken with, all the candidates, everybody that are running from city, local, state, whatever, they always hark on their beginning right there, their family. And people don't realize how important such a great start like that with an awesome family that's behind you, that supports you, can do for you. You see a lot of those situations where, especially today, like you said, your mom got up every morning, with all the stuff that she was going through, made sure you guys had a hot meal and everything, didn't complain. You said you never heard her complain. Mm-hmm. We could so learn from them guys today. The parents of today, I'm not knocking them, so y'all don't say, I'm just saying, go back and look. Like he said, his mother got up, she worked her tail off, she made sure that they had a hot meal and everything, didn't complain. That's the thing right there. She knew what was best. She had her priorities in order is what it was. She knew her kids was the top issue right there. It wasn't about her, it was about her kids. And
she gave.
What's best for them. Exactly.
Just continually gave.
And we need to remember that right there. And we all need to learn from that. We need to do that very same thing right there. And we could all be much, much better if we all done that. Can you imagine if we all decided to start focusing on that instead of ourselves and complaining and whining all the time? My goodness.
Yeah, and I mean, like I started off saying, even though we didn't have a lot, we didn't. As a kid, I never even thought that.
Yeah.
Because in my mind, we had everything we needed.
Exactly.
And it was, it was obviously she had to live within a budget, and we had to watch what we bought at the grocery store, but it was always enough.
Right.
I mean, it was.
And I guarantee you as a kid, your brothers and sisters, y'all was always smiling, having a blast, playing outside and everything growing up. And that's the same way me and my little brother Sam was. Grew up in East Milton over there. It was just me and him.
Yeah.
Didn't have much, but we had each other, and we knew our parents loved us, and we didn't know we were poor.
Yeah.
We had no clue. And it just goes to show you don't have to have monetary things to be happy.
Right.
People need to get off of that kick. Anyway, I'm sorry I went down that tangent, but when I heard
good.
you say that, I was thinking, people need to hear that message right there. Anyway, what is your favorite thing about the city of Milton?
Well, there are a lot of things. My favorite thing, by far, is the people.
Yes.
The people that it sort of drew me here, and has definitely helped to keep me here,
Right.
because they're friendly, giving, and I say that not only because of living here, because I've seen what the people do in the community.
Yeah.
So it is that giving spirit, always trying to help someone, make something better. We have so many nonprofit organizations that serve youth, the needy, veterans, recreation, sports, the environment, you name it. And
Yeah.
I mean, to me, that's an indication of the wealth of a community.
Yes.
Is how, the giving spirit of people, the goodness of people.
Right. Absolutely.
And it's something that I really love about Milton. But, other things that drew me, because I love the outdoors, is,
Yeah.
I'm right there at the Blackwater River and Blackwater River State Forest and all these other natural lands. And, I like to be out in the woods.
That's right.
I like to be outdoors. So that was a driver. And then I love history, and I love old buildings. My father was a great carpenter. My grandfather, he built the house in the little community that I grew up in, because he was gassed in World War I, and he never really fully recovered, and he had to be by a Veterans Administration office, by a hospital there.
Okay. I get
So
it.
he built a house right by it, and it was one of these Creole cottages. Didn't have any air conditioning, lots of windows.
Right.
He built it, kept all the trees that shaded the house. I mean, did all the common sense things
Yeah.
to make it work. But that also, instilled in me a love of those types of older homes.
Yes.
And communities like Milton, the history of it. So it was a collection of all those things. It sort of, first time I drove through Milton, it was like, this is a neat town,
Yes.
I still had a lot to learn about it, but it made me want to be there,
Right.
along with the people. So that's why I settled there.
It's got that that welcoming feel to it.
Yeah.
It truly does. And I've said it time after time after time. We are so blessed to have the history that we have here between Milton, Pensacola, and all of us. There's so much here. It drives me insane that so many people don't know the great history that is right here. And we got to get that message out there. But anyway, driving through downtown Milton, it's literally like you're going back in time. You drive through there in the afternoon or at nighttime. We got the Imogene over here. It's literally, like I said, like you're traveling through time, right, that little corridor right there, and then all the old homes and everything.
Just think of that. The homes that have been there, buildings that have been there 150, 125. Think of that history, and think of what, not only the people and the businesses, because that comes first, but think of everything else that's happened, the hurricanes, the floods, the fires.
Fires. Yep.
But the resilience of the community, of building back in a different way. But Milton's one of the oldest cities in Florida.
Yeah.
1844, that's a long time ago.
Better believe it. And we are so blessed to be able to live here, man. Good night. All right. What do you do for fun?
Well,
when you have time.
It's definitely outdoor related. I love to hike. I love to camp. I love to kayak. I kayak most of these creeks and rivers.
Oh, nice.
I've hiked all the trails. I've camped all over the place. Both here locally, I believe, we have a really special place here locally, so I like to explore it. But I'm also an avid runner. I became a runner I wasn't as a youngster, but I really enjoy it.
Yeah.
It keeps me out in the community. I run all over Milton, all the streets and sidewalks and parks, and
Get to experience it firsthand.
yeah, I do. It's a whole different perspective when you get out there, and even when I travel, I do that. So it's all related to just being outdoors, and I think it helps to keep me healthy when I'm out there doing those things. A lot of times I'm also solving problems in my head or running through things in my head.
You're in your comfort zone.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So that's all good. But exploring Santa Rosa County and in and around Milton, we've got some real treasures around here.
Yes, we do. You better believe it. All right. The fun begins right here. Part 2, the political question.
All right.
Why did you decide to get involved with politics?
Well, there's a lot of parts to that too. Part of it, I've always been, since here in Milton, I've been a community volunteer engaged. So I believe in just giving back, and community service is important to me.
Right.
So I was involved in a variety of nonprofits and just community projects, and how can I help? How can I be a part of improving the community?
Absolutely.
So that was important to me. I was asked many years ago by a city councilor to get involved in city boards. So the first one was the Milton Planning Board. So I got on that and started learning about the city.
Right.
And then I was asked to be a part of the Milton Historic Preservation Board. I ended up serving as chairman of both of those boards and served for years. So it really taught me a lot.
Yeah.
And then I started volunteering some for some more regional type boards and committees that still impacted Milton, but was even maybe a bigger picture.
Yeah.
Because they were just either tied to the environment or history, historic preservation, community planning,
Right.
things like that.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
it was both, this is how I can help my community, but all that time I was learning. I was learning more about how things work, how city government works. There's a lot of things I saw that were really, really good. There were some things over the years that I saw that probably needed to be better.
Absolutely.
And that's what I tried to work on and just tried to help.
Absolutely. Love that answer, buddy. Who were some of your political influences that you admired,
Well,
if any?
yeah, there definitely has been some in the city of Milton. One of my early connections was with a city councilwoman, Hilda McDonald, and she had served for quite some time. She lived right in the heart of downtown, and just really community minded.
Right.
Always engaged and talked. What do you think about this? What do you feel about this project?
I love that type of person.
Yeah, it was
there.
more community input, but she really cared deeply about Milton and especially about history and the historic preservation. Of course, I told you that matters to me.
Yeah.
So even though she was older, she'd say, we'd talk up. She didn't support the 4-laning at all, and she told me one day, she said, "Vernon, that is never going to happen. I'll chain myself out there on that road, but they're never going to do it because I know it's not good for Milton.
Gotcha.
And I'm just not going to stand for it." So it's just sort of that marrying of her love of the community and her care for it, but her determination of, I know this isn't good and I'm not going to stand for it. And while she was a city councilwoman, it never moved very far
Right.
because I feel like
She was the rock, right?
she was the rock.
Yeah.
They just wouldn't, no one wanted to really cross her on that.
You have to respect somebody like that right there.
Yeah, so she was a big influence. And, at a national level, I always respected our President Teddy Roosevelt because of his all he did for
Thank you, my favorite president. Yes, sir.
all he did for conservation,
Yep.
you know, all these game reserves, wildlife refuges, national forests, national parks. I mean, hundreds of millions of acres that
Yep.
we all now get to enjoy.
Yes.
He helped to make that happen.
Yep.
And, you know, he wasn't always in the best of health.
Right.
So even though he cared about that, he was still doing that for our country, for future generations. And if, you know, we looked at the list of all those places,
Yeah.
it's places that, you know, our country just loves.
Yeah, and not just that, the stuff that he did throughout the world, along with the stuff like, you know, the national parks and everything, he took it worldwide. He truly cared, and he was a heck of a man. Now, if you read all the guy's accomplishments and all that man went through, with especially in the sadness that he went through with his family and everything, man, he was a hell of a person.
He got a lot done. He was definitely he was a people person.
Yes.
He worked for the people, but during difficult times, like, you know, I heard from my parents and grandparents about the Depression era and how hard it was. I mean, it's hard to survive through it.
Absolutely.
I mean, to get money and to put food on the table, but he helped to start things like the Civilian Conservation Corps. And my dad and a lot of relatives at that time, they worked in that.
Right.
That's how, you know, they picked up other skills.
Right.
And so it was helping our country get things done, but it was teaching a whole new, you know, part of our youth of how to do things, to become master skilled at
Keep the ball rolling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And some of those projects today, those CCC projects, I mean, they built them so good. We still have them.
Yeah.
They're here today because they're high quality projects.
Yes, sir.
So, I mean, I like that about him because he saw problems and he just basically figured out ways, working at sometimes what can be pretty contentious.
Yeah.
You know, everybody's not always in agreement.
No.
But how do you make things like that happen? So anyway, I admire him.
Yeah, you better believe it. And when you said that, I brought a smile to my face because we're definitely pinging on that one. Alrighty. What is the biggest issue in Milton, in your opinion, at this time, and why is it the biggest issue?
Goodness, that's a hard question because we got some big issues in Milton right now, and I'll name three of them, and I'll focus on the one to be direct here.
And let me say before you get going, we are going to ask about the 4-lane and all that later on. So if you want to mention it or whatever, we can hit on it a little bit later. But you do what you want to do, my friend.
Well, good, because that's one of them.
Gotcha.
Since you're going to ask me about that later, I won't dig into that one as much right now. But it is a big defining issue for our community, the business community, the downtown.
Yes, sir.
And, you know, the larger area too. Second would be the wastewater treatment plant. So that's a huge project for not only the city of Milton, but for the larger area.
Right.
So it's about how do we move the needle forward on doing something better and preserving water quality, the river, the bay. How do we get there? I mean, it's the biggest investment and project the city of Milton's ever done.
Yeah.
So how do we do that in the best way? How do we make sure that our river, our bay, our water quality, you know, we don't want to have a river in a system that you can only look at.
Right.
You know, we already have some creeks in the area that have serious problems that, you know, you hear people, I used to take my family there. I used to swim. It was our favorite. Can't go in there anymore. We don't want our future of Milton and Santa Rosa County to be one where, yeah, it's a pretty thing to look at, but you can't get it anymore.
Don't step your foot in there,
you can't eat anything out of it. The fish or the oysters, or we don't want to go there.
Absolutely.
And it's the actions that we take today. Wastewater treatment's part of it.
Right.
And I mean, that's just the bottom line.
Yeah.
If you read the Northwest Florida Water Management District plan for our area, for our entire bay system, it's called the SWIM plan. If you read that, it identifies some of the major problems. In some parts of our rivers and bays, they have serious bacteria, fecal coliform. I mean, we got to trace that back to the what's causing it.
Yes.
And then we got to address it.
Absolutely.
And it's not pointing fingers at anyone. I bet you all of the people, they love that river too.
Yeah.
And they love the bay. Some people may not even know why some of these, how these things are happening. So it's how do we work together to solve those problems? But you got to identify them first.
Yes.
So part of it is how do we get more people off of septic tanks so that everything is treated?
Right.
It's going through wastewater treatment because that's taking the bacteria, fecal coliform, all those issues out.
Right.
So we have to do more of that. When the swim plan was done, there were 54,000 people in our area on septic tanks. It's not all on good soils for septic tanks. So, it's just something we have to work together to get more of that higher level treatment. The other thing with water is non-point source runoff. So it's everything that comes off of land, off of streets. How do we make sure that what's going into our rivers and creeks is clean? And that's where preserving more areas along creeks and rivers,
Right.
having more trees, having more stormwater treatment, all of that, we can all play a role in that.
You better believe it.
But you gotta know those things to take the steps. And to get back to your question, every local government can play a role in that.
Yes.
Every aspect of it. Runoff, treatment, you name it. We all got to address those things.
Yeah.
We're growing. More people want to live here in Milton and Santa Rosa County. That escalates the issue of protecting water quality. So, most of those people are moving here because they love a lot of the same things we do.
Right.
So you can't fault them for
Right,
that.
right.
But, and I'd say that the third thing in Milton, a big item would be, as the courthouse has moved away, is the adaptive reuse of all of these county buildings. It's buildings that they own, but they are buildings that belong to us. They're public buildings.
Right.
So they've been a great partner in downtown, but I want to see all those adaptively reused. I want to see small businesses in them, local businesses. I've seen that all across the country where courthouses have been repurposed, and they're full of small businesses. Food halls, you name it. It's every type of small business you can imagine. So why wouldn't we do that here? The building's bought and paid for. It has some delayed maintenance because it's been at full capacity for a long time.
Right.
But guess what? It's going to be empty. We can address the delayed maintenance.
Right.
And we can make that a part of increasing the retail and business opportunities in our downtown. If we work with the county to do that. So why wouldn't we do that?
It's there. Why not use it, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Speaking of growth, with all the growth all over Santa Rosa County, we are all experiencing a lot of new issues and concerns, as you hit on. What do you see will be Milton's biggest concern because of this, and how do you fix that?
Well, the biggest concern is how do you grow, because we are going to grow.
Yep.
Milton is growing.
Yeah.
I'm excited about that growth and the businesses coming to our community. Publix just opened. We have a lot of small businesses that are opening, including in our downtown.
Yep.
It's happening. So that's the good part of it. The more difficult part is how do you grow in a way that's responsible and you protect the values and the things that make Milton special in the first place. People love that it's a friendly place.
Yeah.
Small town characteristics, a lot of history, a lot of older buildings that can, those old buildings, they're not a liability to me. They're an asset.
Right.
They're a community asset. They help small businesses that can't afford the huge upfront investment of building something brand new. You know how much that costs today? You know how much time it takes?
Yeah.
But when you've already got a building there, the smartest thing you can do as a community is reuse it. Help businesses get through the myriad of very complicated codes today, and how do we make it easier for businesses to start? We're already a very pro-business community.
Right.
Our city of Milton is like that. Our staff is like that. But there's other things that we can do to create an even more positive business and community climate, while not sacrificing the things that small town that makes. I mean, I don't want to be any place America.
Right.
I love the things about Milton that drew me here. We don't have to sacrifice that. Now, some people, I respect everybody's right to live outside of Milton in the places they want to.
Right.
Maybe those places don't have a lot of amenities. Maybe they don't have a lot of stores and retail, and they want to live there, and maybe they want to quickly get to Walmart and Pace or something like that. But you know what? The people that invested in Milton, invested in the downtown and history. You know, I'm a Milton City Council person,
Right.
and I work for the city of Milton,
Right.
and it's protecting those values and that investment in our community that is most important to me. I care about all my friends outside of Milton, but the responsibility is how do we grow, but grow responsibly.
Bingo. Love that answer. Love that answer. There are a lot of dangerous intersections in Milton, such as Dogwood and Hamilton Bridge Road and Stewart and Magnolia. How do we make these intersections as safe as possible for the citizens?
Good question, because as we grow, people are often trying to get to places even faster. You know, they're going further. Their jobs are further away. So, you know, how do we do that? How do we? For most people, when you talk to them, when they do surveys, we just recently had one on Santa Rosa County. How is Santa Rosa County doing? And safety often is a big issue to citizens. So it's both intersections like you're asking me about. It's people that are walking, biking. You know, not every family has 2 or 3 cars.
Right.
Some people have to walk or bicycle to work.
Yep.
Or to get whatever they need for life. So having safety for, you know, it's called multimodalism, but for all the different types of users. But what I've done, because I'm the city's transportation planning organization representative,
Okay.
and
That's right, you are. Yep.
prior to being that for the city, I served on the transportation planning organization for almost 2 decades. On the community advisory committee.
Right.
So that was one of those things you asked me earlier, you know, what have you got involved in? What did you do?
Right.
I did that because the very thing you're asking me about matters. Why? Because I walk and run and
So
bike.
You run it, yeah.
I mean, so public safety matters to me personally, but to a lot of people I talk to, you know, people were calling me, so many accidents at Stewart and Magnolia.
Yeah.
And recently we had a fatality.
Yep.
I don't want to have any more of that.
No.
So what we did was ask DOT to quickly do something about that. They have a process about that thick. It's called a warrant analysis, where they go through a process of studying that intersection, look at every aspect of it. What can they do? You know, do kids use it to go to school? How many complaints, accidents, deaths, you name it, everything. They have to study all of that. They do traffic counts. So they're in that process right now.
Okay.
I pushed it at the TPO level. I brought it up several times. I talked to DOT specifically about that intersection. We need to do something.
Yeah.
We cannot have any more fatalities there. I mean, accidents are bad enough. But,
Yeah.
So I know they're working on it, to answer your question, but I think there's other things that we can do to make intersections safer in general. Some of it has to do with sequencing and timing of lights, how much time you have for turn signals. So in some of the other intersections, we've worked to make the turn signals have protected green signals, and so you're not having conflicts in intersections. For the pedestrian bicycle part of it, you got to have the safe crossing, and you also have to think about young people making those crossings, like safe routes to school.
Yep.
How do they get across an intersection? But also, as people age, they can't drive anymore. They still want to be active in the community.
Absolutely.
And if you have a community where they can walk and they can cross intersections, guess what? They will be active in the community. That's the kind of community that I want to work to help happen more in Milton. So.
Awesome. The Milton Police Department seems to be behind the eight ball with all the growth we have, along with the Sheriff's Office. With that, how do you think they can assure the safety of the citizens of Milton? And what, if any, changes would you like to see implemented to make the department better?
We have best police department
You better believe it.
in Milton. So they're very community minded. They're very approachable. They're problem solvers.
Yes.
So we have good leadership there. The officers are that way. So it's the kind of police force that you want.
Yes, it is.
So as far as improving it, I mean, we've just got a great one here.
That's right.
I don't know what else we need to do. I would just want to continue to have the kind of leadership we have with Chief Tyndall,
Yes.
and the kind of people that he hires, our current police force. They're just good people.
Absolutely. Love it. Love it. One of the things that came up the last few years that seemed to cause some issues was the BLM, Black Lives Matter movement, and Milton had their share of items that it was faced with. Some of the items was the painting of roads with the slogan and the sun in downtown Milton. What was your opinion on all of this? If something like this comes up again, what would you recommend the council do to handle it?
Good question. Important to me on any issue like what you're asking me is I strongly believe in life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness for all.
Absolutely.
And that means everyone. It means people that I or you may not like, you may disagree with strongly, but that's the great thing about our country. It's for everyone.
Yep.
So, in response to painting on the road, I didn't really support that because roads are about moving traffic and safety of that. I don't like a lot of distractions, but I do believe that respect and recognition of all segments of our city and of society is important. So when people come forward and ask and say, this is important to me, this is an important element of showing that we are a unified community, or that respect is something that is a value in Milton, I support it 100%. And what the city did, instead of a road being painted, the community worked together to get some artists to do a cube that was put in downtown first and was moved to different parts of the city.
Yeah.
And it basically told that story of a unified Milton, of African Americans, white people, every nationality, young people, old. We all respect each other.
Right.
We care about each
I
other.
believe it.
So, but you have to, people in the community have to know that they are all respected and they have a place in City Hall. They can come and their voice will be heard.
Yep.
And I think the city did a good job with that. So to answer how we would do it moving forward, as a council person, that's what is important to me.
Gotcha.
Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness for everyone.
I love that answer. I love it. If constitutional carry or open carry is ever passed in Florida, would you be in favor of it, and would you mind it in the city of Milton?
Well, I definitely support the Second Amendment because I'm a constitutionalist. I strongly believe in all elements of the Constitution, first and foremost,
Right.
which is why I said also life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness for all. So I also recognize that it's a very passionate issue. There are strong feelings on all sides. We have a responsibility of following federal and state law. So that's an important element too, not just the Constitution.
Right.
But I also feel very strongly that there are common sense things related to, people that have committed a crime, felons, domestic violence, people that are mentally ill. I'm not trying to, again, set them aside.
Right.
I want to help solve, people that have mental illness.
Right.
I want that to be something that is part of solving in our country. But when it comes to guns, I do feel like, there are some common sense things that need to be looked at.
Gotcha.
But strongly support the Second Amendment right of the right to bear.
Gotcha. All right. And I believe the gentleman that asked that, it was because there was another city somewhere in the United States that their state was about to pass something like that, but he said, well, it's not going to happen in my city type deal. So that's where I believe that question came from. Alrighty, here we go. One of the biggest concerns lately have been the bridge coming into Milton from East Milton. There has been a few different options provided to solve it. If you could make the final call on what to do, what resolution would you choose, and most of all, why?
Yeah, it's a very good question. I appreciate someone asking that, and it's a defining issue for our community.
Yeah.
And as I told you earlier, with 20 years of being involved in the TPO, I was taught by the Florida Department of Transportation, and I was taught by the Emerald Coast Regional Planning Council. So training, going to look at other cities, all kinds of mounds of information.
Right.
I read it. I learned lessons from other places. I call it transportation best practices, because even DOT, from the time, for instance, related to the bridge coming into Milton and Highway 90 through the downtown area, either being four-laned or not, when that process started in 2014, the way FDOT was then versus the way it is today, night and day different.
Yeah.
So it'd be like you go into a doctor and, well, I want the best treatment available today. And, the doctor said, oh, no, I'm only going to do something the way they did it 10 years ago. Well, that's not the best way to do it.
Right.
These new advances increase my survival, tenfold.
Yeah.
Well, I'm just going to do it.
Right.
Well, why wouldn't we learn the lessons about how do we do this the best way?
Right.
So with DOT, it's called now Complete Streets 360. So what they say with that is putting the right road in the right place. So it just recognizes that for every part of a road, it's different. If it's in a downtown, or if it's in a suburban area or a rural area, they're all very different.
Yeah.
And how people move in them, how many people are walking, biking, how close the buildings are to the road, just different things like that.
Yeah.
So that's called context-sensitive design. So all of that is a part of how DOT looks at it now.
Right.
So when the project was done for Milton, it was sort of done in an older way.
Okay.
And now the way they're looking at it is public safety first.
Right.
And what we learned in a downtown about that is downtown, because you want kids and older people and everyone to walk across streets, move between businesses. If it's not walkable, you're not going to have a successful downtown. Bottom line, everyone's told us that.
Right.
That's the way it works. You can't send people from one part of downtown, walk 5 blocks and then you can cross the road.
Yeah.
It doesn't work. So what we learned is speed kills. So if you're going 20 to 25 miles per hour, 5% of the people would have serious injuries or be killed. You just ramp that up a little bit to 30 to 40, and you're reaching 80% of the people killed.
Oh.
And 45 to 50, you're killing most of the people and serious injuries.
Yeah.
So what does that mean to downtown? Well, the road that had been designed was really a road that was designed at a 45 mile per hour speed limit. It's called design functionality. So it's not putting a speed limit sign that matters.
Yeah.
It's how you design the road.
Gotcha.
So in a downtown, if it's designed for 45, you know how people drive. The people that obey the law, if it was a 25 mile per hour speed limit, that's what they would drive.
Right.
Everybody doesn't do that. So it gets back to that whole safety element. So the reason I'm against the 4-lane is we've learned that in downtowns they don't work.
Gotcha.
In our TPO, cities are spending tens of millions of dollars to undo 4 lanes in
Okay.
downtown areas.
Gotcha.
You go to the next TPO over Fort Walton Beach. They're undoing a 4-lane in their downtown to bring it down to 2 lanes at the
wow.
cost of millions and millions of dollars because it's helping revitalize their downtown. It's going to bring it back to life. They're not going to do it because it hurts the community.
Right.
They're doing it because they know it helps with community safety. It helps with economic prosperity, getting more businesses there. Defuniak Springs, almost just like Milton.
Yeah.
They have a 4-lane road right by their downtown. They're working with DOT to implement a project to do what? To do away with the 4-lane. So if you keep on doing the same thing over and over again and expect a different result, but why would I support implementing something that not only in our region, across the state, across the country, everyone's undoing them
Right.
because they were harmful to communities. Now, I don't want to bury head in the sand, neither does the city of Milton.
Gotcha.
So is there another solution? There's lots of solutions.
Right.
They just weren't studied by DOT. Everything that was studied was just as harmful as the 4-lane. I didn't support any of them.
Gotcha.
So the city's trying to hire a traffic engineering consulting firm to do the very thing of hiring an expert to bring back what are those alternatives? How can we do this the best way? We're not going to give up on FDOT. You know, it's never the wrong time to do the right and the best thing for your community.
Right.
So that's what I feel about this, and that's what I've heard from constituents. They don't want to see Milton just as a drive-through, a speedway.
Right.
They want it to be a destination. They want it to be a vibrant, lively downtown.
Right.
And we can have that.
Yeah.
It's already starting to happen, but a lot of people are looking to see, will Milton do the transportation best practice? Will they do the best thing? Or are they just going to make it a drive-through?
Gotcha. We shall see. I just hope, man, I love history. I don't want to see my home loses some of its history and lose all that right there. I just hope that the citizens of the city of Milton and you guys and the state come together and come up with what's best for the city and its people. You know, whatever works, I'm going to support whatever you guys in the city comes up with. But I just hope at the end of the day, we can all live with the choices, come together as a community, and work as one. I'm tired of. There's a lot of you know as good as I do. There's so many folks over there that want this thing done and want that thing done, and it's not helping anything. You know, we need to put all of our swords down and come together and work as one to find the best solution for the city.
I agree with you, and I think with FDOT, the city definitely wants that positive working relationship. They've done a lot of fantastic projects, including one that's impacting Highway 90, the Advanced Traffic Management System, BioVision,
Okay.
of synchronizing the lights from Ward Basin to Stewart Street.
Right.
It's a game changer.
Yes.
It's already in the first month of operation. It improved traffic flow during peak period 42%.
Wow.
So that's a FDOT project.
Right.
I mean, they do good things.
Yeah.
But that's what I mean about they already have a good manual on how to solve, how do we do this better through Milton?
Right.
So I think we can pull everybody together. We can solve the traffic flow so people, I want it to work for East Milton and Pace too.
Right.
It's a state highway, so I don't want it, I want to be a good neighbor to everyone.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I'm also very concerned about the health and the vibrancy of Milton
Right.
and the future of our community. That's ultimately my
Absolutely.
responsibility
Right.
as a council person. And when every survey that's been done, the city's done previous surveys, 2-to-1, the people did not want a 4-lane. I mean, that was survey.
Right.
When DOT did their public meetings and they had public comment and voting, it was 2-to-1 or more. People did not want the 4-lane. What else do you have to hear?
Right.
I mean, I know people are passionate on the other side, and I respect their
Right.
opinion, but what I've heard and what I've seen in surveys and in all the DOT public meetings, people didn't want it.
Yeah. And at
So-
the end of the day, you got to do what the citizens want.
You got to honor that.
Right. I just hope everybody can come together and accept it, and we can move together as one.
I agree.
All right. You hit on the courthouse a little while ago. Got a question on here about it. With a new courthouse now built and the old one will now be empty, what, if anything, would you like to be done with it in that area? You hit on it a little bit, as you was talking about something else, but would you like to elaborate what you'd like to see done with it?
Yeah, that's a really great question, and that's a important part of county history. That's been a courthouse site for over 150 years. That courthouse is almost 100 years old. It's built strong as an ox.
Yeah.
I mean, it is a solid building. They really don't make them like that anymore. So like I indicated to you earlier, it has some delayed maintenance because it had to, because it was at more than full capacity. The county's done the very best job they could
Right.
with it while it being full of people. Today, it's a courthouse. So what I see for it in the future, it's a great asset for the community. I've seen smaller communities across the United States where they have repurposed those types of buildings, public buildings, because they mattered to people, because we already own it. We paid for it over and over and over again. There's no reason to take it to the dump and tear it down. But I've seen them purely be private businesses. I've seen them purely be public buildings like community use, library, theaters, museums. I've seen them be all kinds of things. Or I've seen them be a joint public-private partnership where you have 2/3 of it business and maybe 1/3 of it with some sort of public use.
Right.
But it's a huge building. It's a great opportunity to help young business people and entrepreneurs. So lots of times they just need a small space to get started. And once they prove their business and they can get up and running, then they can move into a bigger space.
Right.
But I want to encourage business development in the city even more. And sometimes it's doing things like this where you go in, maybe the county, city, we address whatever that delayed maintenance is. And then it becomes it's offered for private business or a joint public-private partnership where we could have those smaller business spaces in there, maybe some of them bigger business spaces, coffee shops, small restaurants, bookstores and small retail spaces. People have had lots of ideas like that, but let's make more spaces like that available to them and then see what our entrepreneurs and our business people can do.
Right.
I think they want to be in Milton,
Yeah.
but let's make it available.
Gotcha. And I've heard that idea from a couple folks actually. So apparently it seems to be a pretty popular talking point right there. Also, the history of that building right there, the time capsule that's out front. My grandfather was one of the ones that helped put that time capsule in. County Commissioner Frank Lewis.
Really?
Yep.
That is cool.
So yeah, it's a big part of our history right there, and I love the history.
Yeah, it's the biggest building that we have in our Milton Historic District.
Yep.
So how do we preserve that history that's important to all of us, but do it in a way where it becomes a vibrant business space or a community space or
Right.
both? So, and it's like you said earlier about Highway 90. Yeah, there's some challenges, but we all pull together as a community, listen to each other's ideas, take the best lessons learned from other places. Let's implement it.
Right. Work together as one.
Yeah.
Alrighty. There are some bars and restaurants in Milton, especially, and now this question right here came up. I've asked a couple of other candidates as well, and you guys have recently spoken with it, but I asked it before you guys have talked about it because you'll hear it in a second and you'll know why. There are some bars and restaurants in Milton, especially near the river, that would like for patrons to be able to carry their drinks from location to location and to walk out down by the river with them. Where do you stand on the issue of bringing your drink from locale to locale, and why do you have this? What would you say to the restaurants or bars that want this and to those that don't?
Yeah, it's again, it will be a very passionate issue because there will be people on both sides of this with very strong opinions. Right now, where we have it is it's been sent to one of our committees for review, the Community Improvement Board. It may even go to other boards like the Planning Board. I'm not sure yet, but the reason for that is community input is important.
Yes.
You have to listen to the community. So those meetings and the public and businesses interacting with me as a council person, and if I am elected again, which I hope I am, it's listening. What do people want? How do we make this better serve our businesses, and recognizing that not everybody even likes a brewery or a bar, but
Right.
there's a segment of our population that loves a brewery and a bar.
Right.
I have found them. I live right next door to one of them. They were the best neighbors, very family friendly, all kinds of family activities going on. Anytime I went in there, that's exactly what it was. So to me, it was something that helped better serve the diversity of our community.
Right.
Not everyone, but that's part of freedom. You vote with your pocketbook.
Yep.
In a way. I don't really support that, so I'm not going to go there. Well, good for you. You can go to the places that you really believe in, and I bet you we have many of those in the community too.
Yeah.
But for a long time, the people in the community that enjoyed having a drink after work, they couldn't do that
Right.
because it was prohibited.
Yep.
So when that changed, I was happy because that's part of freedom to me, and I think it better reflects all of our community.
Right.
So to answer your question about the carry of alcohol, I'm really still waiting to hear from the larger population and more people addressing it with me.
Gotcha.
But I do think I can't thank the person that brought it forward enough, because looking at it from a perspective, from a business perspective, if they have, even as the business that he's at, if he has a part of his property where he wants to be able to carry across the street, where maybe they have a food truck or they set up picnic tables,
Right.
in my mind, they should absolutely be able to do
Gotcha.
that. If there's another business that has a back patio and a sidewalk and a front patio, and they serve beer there or wine or drinks, I think they should be able to move from any part of their business to the other part of their business. To me, that's just common sense.
Gotcha.
And but in all of my decisions, there's two elements of it. It's the citizen, the business part of it, and then it's how do we best reflect the freedom in our country and the freedom that I want to see in our city.
Love that answer. Love that answer. And one thing that I've gotten from this interview so far is you seem to be the type that you want to hear from the people, from the citizens before you jump into anything. You're not the type that, well, I think this is what's best, so I don't care what anybody thinks, I'm going this way. No, you seem to be the type that I want what's best for my citizens, so I want to hear from them first, and I want to do as they tell me.
It matters.
That's the type of person we need right there. So good on you for that.
Thanks.
With the recent COVID-19 stuff, where did you stand on all the issues? And if you could have, would you have liked anything to have been done differently?
Yeah, a good question on that too. Again, of course, very passionate views on all sides of that. And I'll start by explaining personally what I did.
Okay.
So personally, when I went into stores or City Hall at the height of the spread of COVID, I wore a mask.
Right.
And I did that because I felt a responsibility to do that to protect other people if I could.
Gotcha.
So if it's something I could do to protect someone that was vulnerable in the community, someone that was much older that could have easily picked it up,
Right.
it's an easy thing that I can do just to take an extra step.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I didn't always like wearing it.
Right.
Sometimes it was a pain,
Yeah.
but I did that because I just felt that responsibility. I do respect very much, for instance, any business decision in my business, this is what you're going to do in it. You know, I don't want you to do it. I expect you to do it. Again, that's their right.
Right.
That's that freedom part of it. You don't have to go to that business. So the businesses that said, I'd see a sign, you can't come in here unless you wear a mask, absolutely respect that.
Right.
Now, no one else had to go there.
That's right.
So it's just that, I still value the right of people to make their own decisions, but I also have a high degree of feeling of responsibility, empathy for others that might be in situations where, they don't have a choice.
Right.
They're not in good health, and being exposed to something, we might not have them right now. And people could argue, well, that's not up to me. That's on them. That's true, but again, it also gets back to what you were saying about all of us working together.
Right.
So sometimes you have to, take the extra step to
Right.
to do things for other people.
Right. Gotcha.
So I hope that makes sense.
No,
It's
you're good.
I respect the choices that people make and their right to make those, but I wanted to share why I made the ones that I did.
Gotcha. Understand. Alrighty. We the people is a term of ownership. What does it mean to you?
We the people, to me, gets back to our country, the freedom that I've talked about.
Right.
It's our Constitution. It's one of the things that I value and I love about America.
You better believe it.
That we have our freedoms, and over time, I feel like we have grown as a country. We've definitely prospered. We're viewed by many as sort of the icon of the place for freedom,
Right.
and I want that to remain. So that's what we the people means to me. I think how that transpires to local government is, even before I became a council person a year ago, I was very engaged in the community. I went to city council meetings.
Right.
I worked really hard, just as a resident, to speak out when I saw that, why are all the meetings during the day? Everybody's at work. I can't even be there.
Yeah.
Nothing is televised.
Right.
It's hard to even get the minutes, would be like months later. I mean, for me to figure out what was going on, even though I was very interested, was hard.
Yeah.
So working to make the changes, and of course it was working through elected officials like Alan Lowry and Wes Meese,
Right.
and people who really pushed hard to make the changes. So meetings are after work.
Yep.
So yeah, it's after work, but you know what? Citizens can be there.
Yep.
And to me, it means, we the people means that if I have to be there till midnight or 2 a.m. in the morning as a council person to hear everything and to get through the city business, so be it. That's why I am there. But I want to make sure that we can do all the business. Only time I can talk to council people about city business is in the meeting.
Right.
So sometimes that means to get through everything, to hear everyone like we should, meetings have to be long.
Yeah.
But I hope that answers the
Yeah.
question. That's we the people to me is how is everything more accessible? How can everyone be a part of all decisions?
Absolutely.
Now, we may not always agree,
Right, of course not.
but
That's how boring this place would be.
it's having that voice and being a part of the process.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Perfect. Do you agree with the end justifies the means in the decision-making process?
Well, like I told you earlier, I believe there's never a wrong time to do the right thing. And the ends to me is doing the right thing. So as an elected official, to me, that means like in the packets that are provided to the council and to the citizens, I'm doing my homework. I'm providing a lot of backup information because I want everyone to know what's part of the process of me, what I'm looking at, because I'm listening, but I'm also studying.
Right.
You know, I'm looking, why would I want to do something that has been proven over and over really not to be a wise use of taxpayer dollars?
Right.
Like we were talking about Highway 90, implementing something that people are spending tens of millions of dollars all over the place to undo.
Right.
I mean, I want to save taxpayer dollars so that we can do more safety projects. We could do more infrastructure projects, more road improvement projects. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I mean, so, you know, that's what it means to me is how do we make the best decision, the right decision? And sometimes that means, it's pretty muddled up, a difficult process and a lot of debate and discussion. But, you know, over the last many years, I've seen us get more away from that where I'm in this camp, you're on this side, I'm on this side. And that's not healthy for the community.
No.
If you can't sit down and talk about something, and sometimes it's agree to disagree, but you know, a lot of times what happens to me, people will tell me stuff, and at first it's like, I don't know about that. But you know what? I think about it some more, and there were some really good points in that.
Right.
And it makes me change the way I was thinking about it.
Right.
And it alters the course of really where I go with my vote on a decision.
Right.
But the other part of it is the ability of being able to work with people. You know, sometimes it may be people that really don't like you at all, and they disagree with you like 90% of the time. But when you're elected, you're supposed to work always for the good of the community, for the best community project.
Right.
And that means you have to be able to work with everyone.
Yep.
And I am willing, I've already shown that I can do that. That's how I work. I don't hold grudges. I'm not you did this 10 years. I don't care.
Right.
If you're bringing something forward to the city of Milton that's good for the city of Milton, I'm right there with you.
Awesome. Alrighty. Why should the people of Milton vote for you?
Yeah. Several different reasons. One, because I love Milton and I care about it, and I've shown it.
Right.
It's not, there's words and there's actions.
That's right.
So my actions have shown that service to the community matters to me long before I ever became a council person. I gave back because I care about it.
That's right.
Because I want Milton to be a better place. Now, does that mean that I don't think it's already a good place? No, I told you it is. That's why I moved here.
Right.
But
You want to continue that.
I want to continue it.
Right.
I think we can always we can improve. We can do things better. We can learn lessons. So that's one thing.
Right.
Second of all, in a lot of the things that we have to deal with, I have a lot of experience. I've worked in business. I've worked in environment, conservation. I've worked in hordes of different organizations. I've raised money. I've written grants. I've solved problems. I've brought people together. So that's all a part of being an elected official.
Yeah.
So I think between community service experience, my dedication, and service to the community, I've shown that I'm not just going to be a talker. I'm going to be a doer.
Absolutely. And that's one thing that viewers know about me is actions. Actions show who you really are and what you're about. And you just nailed it right there. Last one. If anyone wants to get a hold of you, how would they do that? They have any questions, comments, concerns? How are they going to get a hold of you?
Yeah, and that's important. The best way is I'm always available by my phone, 850-982-4544. And that's for a call, texting me. It's for setting up a meeting, after work, on the weekends, whatever is the best way for the person contacting me, because I know everybody has different comfort levels. So it's just reach out to me. That's part of my service. I'm there for you. So I want to be contacted. And, if it's a business, I'll meet at the business space. I'll meet, if it's a particular project and they want to, well, let's go walk this road corridor. Let's look at this intersection. Let's look at this gap in a sidewalk. A lot of those types of things are important to me. Let's look at a community park.
Yeah.
Those, there's some of the strengths of Milton, but they also matter to me. And, citizens, it's that sort of that spirit of, that drew me here. They're always trying to improve Milton by giving, but they're also trying to improve it by their ideas.
That's right.
And they want to express their ideas to the leadership.
That's right.
So they can contact me. They can contact the city staff. That's why the staff is there. But first of all, just reach out to me. Email, phone number, you name it.
And we're going to put all that up there on the screen for you guys. So if you want to reach out to them, you can. And I've got to say, every time I've reached out to this gentleman, he's responded back. We've talked everything. And always on the go. You're always doing stuff for the city. Heck, we've had to knock this interview back a couple times because you were doing things for the city. So your actions yet again have shown where your loyalties lie and what you're really about.
Thank you.
I just want to say I've enjoyed sitting down with you. It's been a great interview. And is there anything else that you would like to say?
No, I just would, for all those, both inside Milton and outside Milton, is please vote for me. I want to serve you. I'll put my heart in it 100%, and please give me that opportunity to serve on the city council for these upcoming 4 years.
Absolutely. All right, guys, we're going to put all his information out there and what he's about, and you can reach out to him. I'm Tommy Nichols, Blue Collar Voice with Mr. Vernon Compton. Toodles. Thank you, Vernon.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes, sir.